Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rates and Lanes podcast. We're running a little bit behind schedule tonight, but hey, we are back and we are here ready to ride again. I apologize for our tardiness. We had a little bit of a technical issue with our guest, but there's no problem. We were able to overcome it, and we're going to pick right up and keep on keeping on. A little bit of housekeeping before we get started, ladies and gentlemen. If you would be so kind, do us a huge favor: like, share, and subscribe to the video. That helps us get the video out to a broader audience, helps us with the algorithm, and helps us get to like I say, helps us reach a bigger and broader audience. So if you would please do that for us, we greatly appreciate it. And with that being said, we don't want to belabor the point since we're running a little bit behind schedule. I'm going to get ready to bring my co-host home here in just a second, Mr. Chuck Snow, and then we'll bring our guest on here. Got a chance to catch up with Chuck here in the city over the weekend, and got a chance to go out and break bread, have a little bit of dinner with Chuck. It was great to see him again. Chuck, good evening. How are you?
We're doing great, Rico. I'm actually really excited about tonight's show. I met Bob Nuss at the American Truck Historical Society conference and convention in Reno, Nevada, about a month ago, and we really hit it off. He's a Mack dealer of all things, and and our listeners that listen to the show all the time know about my love for Mack trucks. So we hit it off, and Bob got quite a prestigious award that night, and he is very, very passionate about that, about the trucking industry, all things trucking. He does all sorts of wonderful things to promote our industry. And on top of that, Bob he has 9 dealerships in the Minneapolis, Rochester area. I'm sure he'll tell us about them. And on top of that, he's got a truck museum. And I believe that's where he's broadcasting from tonight. And he's going to show us some surprises.
Okay.
He's going to treat our listeners to a private showing of the Nuss collection. So with no further ado, let's welcome Bob Nuss.
Thank you, Rico and Chuck. How are you tonight?
We're
to be
great.
with you. Hope to focus. It looks like the camera's right on, and I'm responding from our Nuss Collection Truck Museum.
All right.
Our theme of our museum is Building America. We've been in the trucking business. My dad started as a Mack dealer in Rockford, Illinois, back in the late 50s. And became a Mack dealer, sold the first new truck in 60. I've been in this business for over 50 years. And it was nice to catch up with you and a lot of old friends at the American Truck Historical Society convention in Reno. And we chatted about old trucks, and the fact that we have a collection. We started about 35 years ago collecting old trucks. And, you start with one truck, and you think, well, my sons, Greg and Brad, Greg was predominantly the one that got us into the business. And we restored a 1923 Mack AC, and then it led to another one, and then another truck. And then pretty soon you got 6 or 8. And then now we've got over 35 in the museum, and probably another 25 in the waiting, just kind of like in holding pattern, and who goes in next. The biggest thing we're working on right now is a 1912 Mack Senior. We just got the engine for it. It was restored the engine was rebuilt. They had to put everything in it. Matt Fall, who's probably one of the foremost restoration guys, specializes in Mack trucks up in Connecticut. Mack dropped, he and his family had dropped the engine off out of his three-wheeler, fifth wheeler that he was pulling with his 4-door Superliner Mack that he had modified and with a 400 Cummins. And I've got pictures of that. So him and his son and daughter and wife, we got this engine, this 900 pound engine down off the back deck, and I got the forklift out. We got it set inside. I'm looking at this 108-year-old engine.
Wow.
It really looks sharp. And Matt says there's only like 4 of these in the world. There's one at I-80 trucks that the Walcott shows. They got a great museum, Moons have down there. And There's one at the Mack Museum, and there's somebody else on the East Coast that has one. But this project has been a long time running, and I've got a truck right behind me. You might be able to see a little bit of it. It's a 1926 AP. It's serial number, this is serial number 1. Now, if I can, I'll just get my head out of this thing so you can kind of see the truck as I walk
Man, that's
by it.
short.
Wow.
How's this? Now,
That's short.
this was a fire truck in its first life, and in Franklin, New Hampshire. It's serial number 1 of the Mack AP, and being a fire truck, it's got dual ignition and dual spark plugs. Now, what's unique about this truck is we created this as a touring coach, and the very first Mack, as you might know, was a bus.
Right.
And the very first bus was a Mack. Now, here, this project took 18 months. It holds
Wow.
16 people. And we created it after the first 1900 Mack. This would be a generation later. We showed this truck at the Antique Truck Club of America in Macungie in 1916 with over 700 trucks. We won the Director's Award for Best of Show.
Wow.
It's really it's painted beautifully. The woodwork was done by a fellow by the name of John Rao and his business partner. They do high-end homes up in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, where we have our restoration shop. And you can kind of see inside of the woodwork. Take a look at that.
Man.
Wow.
It's just a really pretty truck.
That is clean.
Everybody that comes in the museum looks at that truck. Behind me is a little Mack Jr. You guys all know what a Mack, you maybe know what a Mack Jr. is. It's Texaco truck.
Right.
That truck is got our granddaughter Bronwyn, who's actually she's in Scotland right now with my son Brad and his family, and her mother's from Scotland. So every one of the grandkids has got their own truck. But there's a Mack Jr. there, beautifully. In fact, let me get around the front end of it so you can kind of see it a little bit better. Take a look at that.
Wow.
And this truck was featured on Excelta's calendar, which was formerly DuPont, a
Right.
couple of years ago. And it's a, that Texaco truck was, yeah, it was like in July. It's beautifully red paint on there. Behind that truck, I've got something unique on a truck that's never been restored. I've got the first Mack truck production model that had a bulldog on the hood. Now, this is a Mack CJ. This truck was, there's a couple of characters in here too. I don't know what this guy's doing in front of the truck here, but we were just moving trucks today, but check this out. This
Wow.
CJ was at the Chicago Century of Progress Show, World's Fair, 1934. The Mack, according to the Mack Museum, this is the first truck that had a production bulldog on it. Now, that's not the original bulldog. The bulldog was designed by Alfred Masery in 1932 when he was in the hospital. He took a big block of soap, carved a bulldog, and the reason he did that is, as you might know, the Mack truck had the name, was nicknamed the Bulldog truck going back to World War I. And in World War I, we shipped about 5,000 Macks over to the war effort, to the French troops, British troops, and British troops, and then American troops. And they all called it, the English Limeys, that's what their nickname was. They called the truck the Bulldog truck, the ACs. And so the Bulldog didn't get on the truck until the early 30s. But this truck is serial number 1 CJ1001. This particular truck in its patina hauled coal to the Chicago Board of Trade in the Merchandise Mart all the way up to 1969. There's a 1969 Illinois inspection sticker in the windshield.
Whoa.
My dad and Barton Birch, well, Barton Birch was a customer of ours in Rockford, Illinois, and he wanted to collect some trucks, and he just was looking for a couple trucks to restore. But how he got this truck, when they built the Dan Ryan Expressway in Chicago, they
Right.
went right through Dunn Cold's property. And so Dunn Cold, he ended up selling out, and they had a big collection of trucks. There's an AB right next to it. This truck, again, has never been restored.
Wow.
But it's very unique. This particular CJ, what's really unique about this CJ, it's the first Mack truck that's a 12-volt system, and it's also got an aluminum body on it. It's got a Heil aluminum coal body on it in 1933, believe it or not. So that was a unique truck in our collection here. I'll just walk by here. I'm going to show you a couple other things. I've got this is a Mack ED, and it's a 41. It's not finished. We picked it up here recently from a customer of ours who was working on it for a few years. He's got it partially done, but we've got a body for it. He made a donation to our museum, and it was really nice to pick it up, but it's going to be one of them future projects. Let me walk around to this very first World War I truck that was here, 1918 AC. Check this out here. There's the Mack logo that was from when the AC and the AB were first in production. And it's painted World War I green, Army green, hard rubber tires, wood wheels. And this this 18 never served time over in Europe. Luckily it wasn't drafted, but it was restored. It's a replica. I mean, it's an AC Mack, so it's very unique. And what's nice about it is all the radiators back in the back. So you got an open cab, so there's no heat, there's no power steering. You got hard rubber tires. You got about a 1-to-1 steering ratio. So if you're driving this truck and you happen to hit a pebble in the road, you can really kind of jerk on the steering wheel. Now, right next to me is a very unique tandem axle 1920. This is a 1929 AC tandem axle right here. I'll just walk around. This has got a little different engine in it because being the late 20s, it's got a flathead engine in it instead of the engine with the upper cylinders.
Right.
So you can see that. But what's nice about this truck, Tom Spencer, who was probably the foremost restoration guy for Mack ACs, passed away a couple of years ago. Tom was very helpful in anybody that was doing restorations on Mack trucks around North America. There was only 128 of these on this sign that we've got with it. Notice there says there shows a picture of what it looked like when Tom started on this, and 128 of these, and this is one of 8 remaining today. And wow. Check this out with this tandem axle, tandem drive, tandem chain drive, very rare. Most people have probably never seen one of these. No. The other thing that's neat about this, check this out. It's got a winch on the back.
Yeah.
But look at closer. The Mack truck logo is on the winch because Mack truck built the first winch. Isn't
really?
That something? Well, that's what I found. My son told me that here the other day, and I saw the Mack logo on there, and Mack must have sold the winch technology to somebody like Braden or right. Whoever ended up buying it.
Yep.
Well, yeah, one of the 2 winch companies, 1 or 2 or 3 companies, and it's got a rope in the back there for winching on. I don't know if it was used for oil field rigs, but if you look at the technology back here, you've got a combination. What's really neat about seeing this, you can see the transmission and rear axle right here. And what's neat about having these chain drive trucks, and people come in the museum and ask me, well, why chain drive instead of a shaft drive? Or if you have a worm gear, what's nice, like in the war efforts, all you had to carry with you in your little toolbox would be some pins, some clips, cotter keys, and a little rubber mallet to maybe pound if you broke a chain, just like you would on your bicycle when you were a kid.
Right.
So it's really, really unique. But, it's dual tires, and, we've got some really neat stuff. Now, here's the first truck that we restored in our own shop. This is an AC behind me, a 23 AC. We call it the wine truck. And
Man.
that's my granddaughter's name. She picked that name out. It's Anna's Vineyards. Well, Anna's, she's going to be 30 years old this year.
Wow.
And this has got a winter cab on it. So this has got sliding doors here. So you can be a little warmer in this one. I drove this in a Rochester Fest parade here, and we had about 20,000 people in a parade route. And we put these wine barrels on the back, and we had the Turkey River All-Stars was a Dixieland band that won a Minnesota award many years ago. These are, when you get a bunch of 75-year-old guys that play banjo and trumpet and everything, they wanted to sit in the back of this thing. So we got them a ladder, and I said, you guys better be careful. This is a manual transmission, and boy, the clutch is hard to push it in, and the throttle's in the middle. But I had my wife with me, and we made it through the parade route. When you're driving at 5 miles an hour at 90 degrees, it pushes out a little coolant once in a while. But we made it through the parade. And anyway, we've got also another one that was an oil field rig that came out of Canada. This came from Gasoline Alley. Ron Carey was a big collector in the Calgary area. Ron passed away a couple of years ago in an accident in London. Great friend of our family. And he did this, we kept the original name on it, Turner Valley Oilfield Services, and he was in the oil field business. But this is really, really a neat truck. Look at the equipment on the back, and look at the interior, and you can see the back of it. Look at the size of these winches back here, and pulleys for pulling big equipment. I mean, it's just, it's really, really unique.
I'm amazed at the paint job on all of these trucks. I mean, all these trucks that you're showing, I'm looking at the paint jobs on all of them. I'm like, I'm blown away just by the immaculate detail.
They never looked this good when they were new, I can tell you that. and I can tell you right now, we got a lot more money on them right now than what they were new.
You probably spent a lot more money on paint than what they spent to buy the original truck.
Yeah, that's probably right. Well, the other thing, we keep old ones around. Here's one that's totally unrestored coming up on it. We found this truck in a ranch in Montana here a few years ago. And it looks, I hate to tell you, this is one of the best running ACs we've got. And it's got a dump body on it. I'll walk around the other side. The dump body is pulled up by cables. Check this out here, how this works. So you've got your hoist, must be a Garwood. Yeah, it's a Garwood hoist.
Right.
And it pushes up, but then the cables are hooked onto the body, and they pull the body up as the hoist goes up. Now, today you would have the hoist on any truck today, you'd have the hoist hooked into the body and pushed up, but this is done with the cables. It was working on a ranch every day, and we just had it running today. We just actually moved 6 of these trucks in here today. We changed the position of the 3 ACs. We wanted to get the AC. There's 4 ACs here, 3 on one side facing towards the center, and the World War I truck facing toward the outside. You know what's another thing unique about our museum? Take a look at the doors over here. All the doors, there's 20 garage doors in this museum. These are all bus wraps. These are old pictures from 1910 all the way up to 1970. I'll get back to the end one. It's a very clean picture here of this AB, or Mac. This is a Mac, This is a Mac Senior right here. This is like the one we're working on right now. So this is a bus wrap.
Right.
Check, there's 20 doors in here. All of these doors have got these old black and white photographs. And what we used was, bus wrap will stay on the outside of a bus for 8 or 9 years, but when you put them in you put them on an insulated door on the inside, it's unbelievable how well they're preserved and how accurate in the detail, like the one right next to us here. Check how well the detail is. You can see the license number very clearly, the name. It's just some of these photographs are just, you can read all the detail in here. We have a booklet called The Historic Doors of the Nuss Collection, and it's very unique. And when we get a chance, we like to show these off. So like the newest picture here happens to be about a 1954 Mac. It was actually, it's a B-42 SP, National
Right.
Wrecking Service in Chicago. This truck, this company's still in existence. I looked them up on the internet and I sent them a picture of it and they were really surprised. But everything in here is not a Mack truck. We've got something really unique here. Here's the only known Sternberg truck, which was the forerunner for the Sterling.
Oh,
Right
okay.
there. We just backed this thing in here about 2 hours ago. And we had it up at we showed it in Macungie. And
Right.
we had the fellas from the Warren Richardson, he's the president of the Sterling Truck Club of North America. And he said, this is the only known, now Sternberg was built in Milwaukee. And they changed the name of the company to Sterling because during World War I, there was anti-German sentiment.
Of course, yeah.
And so the name was changed to Sterling, but it's right-hand drive, 1914. We bought this on a Meekum sale here a couple months ago. And we were very fortunate that the gentleman stopped in the museum here 2 days before the auction. I wasn't even looking at this truck, but he worked, this was in the Van Horn Museum in Sioux City, Iowa for many years. It was sold to 2 other collectors in the meantime. What's really unique about the Sterling truck, or Sternbergs, check the frame. There's a piece of, look at the wood inside the frame.
Yeah.
Now, I learned when we were out there in Reno, Nevada, I saw a Sterling, a 1925 Sterling that had an oak liner inside. And Sterling got the patent on a laminate liner inside the frame in 1922. But their transmission's a little bit different. Their combination transmission and rear end.
Right.
But it's the frame. When you look at the back end of this truck, in the middle, 1910s. Look at the spring underneath. This thing is designed. It's just like a buggy. It's like a buggy chassis. Is what it is. See the way the springs are hooked together with a loop.
Yeah.
The 2 loops. So you got the spring underneath the chassis, and then you've got double springs. You got one underneath the back cross member and one underneath, another spring over the center of the springs, acting like a bump stop. So you look at the technology that these guys that built these trucks back 100 years ago. These guys were some pretty smart guys.
Oh, yeah.
Really, really did a great job on engineering. Couple trucks, I'll just walk over here. And I don't know how much time we have, Chuck. I don't want to take your whole hour up or anything like that.
Well, I'm finding this fascinating. I don't know about you, Rico. It's pretty interesting stuff.
It's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah. Well, here's a
This is
couple more.
phenomenal.
I'll just kind of keep walking and I'll show you a couple things. Here's an FN. So Cole, here's Cole's Crane Service. This is our 16-year-old grandson who just got his driver's license, and he really loves to drive. Maybe he'll drive one of these trucks in it. I don't know if it's when you get your grandkids and they've got their own truck and they go to a truck. They went to Macungie with us, both Cole and Dalton. Dalton's truck is back down at the other end, but Cole's truck here is an FJ 1942, and it's got a 611 cubic inch engine. So this is when they started to get some big trucks
Right.
with big engines. Now, what's interesting about an FJ, I want to show you a picture on the door again. This is 2 doors, is one picture. Now, when you look back here, I'm going to try to, if you can see, the truck is there. And as I walk down here, I'll turn this around and I'll show you the trailer. And let's see, here it is right there. So they are hauling a, what are they hauling there? They're hauling this World War II, it's a gun. And in our military, maybe you might not have known this, but the American military had, there was 37 of these big guns that were in place. They're like battleship guns. And they were put in place between Virginia and Maine during World War II to protect our coastal area in case Hitler and his troops had tried to come over here and attack us in North America. These guns, they hold they're like 16-inch round shells.
Whoa.
And recently, Gary Mahan at the Mahan Collection, and in the last couple of years was able to there was one of these left down in Virginia. that he was able to acquire, and it was donated to his museum in Basking Ridge, New Jersey, called the Mahan Collection. And my son Greg is on his advisory board. But this is a very unique deal. And Gary got that whole, it's 140 ton is what it is.
Whoa.
And he got that moved up by the railroad, courtesy of Warren Buffett on the railroad out there in Omaha. And he asked for a favor and they got it. Nobody claimed credit for it, but he never got a bill for moving it. They brought down an engine and a couple flat cars, and they told Gary to have his crew there with a crane, and they would move it for him up to New Jersey. Now we move up when we get right past the FN here, and we also had, or the FN, excuse me, this was the FJ. I walked right by the FN. This one we took to Macungie also. It's another truck that came out of Canada. The FN has got a Buffalo motor on the back. I don't know if you guys know much about a Buffalo motor, but it wasn't run by buffaloes, and it won't gore you if you get close to it or anything like that. But anyway, it's no horns on it, but I'll walk back and show you a little bit of the motor. It was used for like oil field rigs here. Look at the size of this. Check that motor out back there. And we had that running up at Macungie, and we drew a big crowd when that thing got fired up. We also had a 23 AC out there with a 1905 Reed hit and miss motor. You know what a hit and miss motor is? Runs about 60 RPM. That was unique. It was 1905, so that's quite old. But when I get past the FJ and the FN here, here's something that the model.
Is that it looks like a superliner.
Uh-oh. We might have lost him.
No, I think he's still on there. Oh, there he is.
He goes.
Whoops.
There he is.
Where did I go?
No, you're back now.
I was there. Did I hit? Can you hear me?
He might not.
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you just fine.
We can see. Okay. I can't hear you.
Uh-oh.
You may have put your.
Oops.
You hear me now?
What do we do here, Chuck?
Well, we can hear and see you.
Okay, we're back in, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
sir.
And you got a great looking
Can you hear me now?
superliner behind you, it looks like.
Okay, looks like we got cut off there a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're fine now. Tell me the story on this superliner. I need one for my collection.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Let me walk down here. I hope you can hear me because I can't hear
we
you.
can hear you.
He can't hear
couple
us.
Superliners here, and we've also got a happens to be a Volvo in here. This superliner, you see this one here there's one with a big bunk on it, big V8 500.
Beautiful shape.
Let me walk down. Here's another couple of trucks.
Bob, what year
It's a
did they
World
come
War
out
I
with
era.
the superliner?
FCSW chain drive, the biggest chain drive truck in North America. These were hauling iron ore out of the Russ Mahal mine in Hibbing, Minnesota back in the early 40s during World War II. And it's a 130,000 pound gross combination weight. And
That's pretty impressive.
this
at
is
that
very
point,
unique.
you know,
I'll
at
just
that
show
point
you a
in
quick
time.
picture of the rear axle, the two chains together. Look at the size of the chains on this thing here. Big rock body, 130,000 pound gross combination. And anyway, a couple
What
other
size
ones
engine
that
was
we
it?
have. Hopefully you got, can you hear me all right? There we go. Okay,
Perfectly.
you guys hear me?
We
Yes.
can hear you. Can you hear us?
Okay. I'm not hearing you, but that's all right. You just wave at me and tell me when I'm done talking. And then, I got to show you one that we just picked up recently. That was a barn find we found in northern Minnesota. It's a Mac G model. I don't know if any of your readers remember, anybody that remembers the G model. This was Mac's aluminum cab that was built after the H model, before the F model.
Yes.
And we found this in northern Minnesota. The original owner was Marvin Figgins. We just had this truck hand lettered back to the original. There's one guy in southern Minnesota that does this hand lettering, and we had him come up here the other day, and he had his little scaffolding set up and all of his little paint cans, and we showed him pictures of it, and he had it all lettered. This was unique, all aluminum. This truck hauled the Alcan Highway. Hauled for international transport for a few years. It was originally red. All we did was have it kind of waxed up a little bit. We had the frame blasted and painted, and it's a very unique truck. Not a total restoration, but it runs good. It's a 225 horsepower with a Mack triplex. So nice one to look at. The one we got here is an LJ. 1953 LJ with a Cummins. That truck was owned by the former illustrator of Mack trucks. He did all the illustrations for marketing, Bob Evans, and great guy, great friend. Next one over here, we've got a Mack M45 off-highway truck mounted on a Rogers beam trailer, 1948 Rogers beam trailer. Very unique. The truck is actually too big for the trailer, so we had to jack it up and put blocks underneath the front of it. You'd never haul with that many blocks in your chain. Something would go out of your way. You'd have a problem somewhere.
Yeah, I would think so.
I'll walk around the other side here. The one behind me is a 1963 Peterbilt that was donated to our museum along with a 1927 International. This Peterbilt was bought new in 63, and one owner had it until 2013. Russ Meyer from California Overland in Wabasha, Minnesota, him and his son Dusty decided they didn't have room for these trucks, and they decided to donate them to our collection since we're a charitable foundation, a 501c3. So if you donate a truck, you get a tax deduction if you can prove all your bills, I guess. Couple other unique things here that I'll walk around. Here's a 1939 Mack BX. And this is our grandson, Reese, who is Bronwyn's brother. And again, he's in Scotland. And it's a Mack flatbed trailer on the back. A 1938 Mack flatbed trailer. Mack built like 2,600 of these trailers.
Was that unique. For the war effort?
The signs here, those were the signs, the lighted signs that we put LED lights in. That was the Mack logo in 1971 when Mack built the Roseville branch that we own now, and just north of St. Paul. Here's a little model. Here's when you get them. Frank Bean who's called Frank Steele. He's unfortunately Frank passed away. This was the last model Frank did. He actually replicated our M45 because this is a Buddy L toy. So back in the 70s, you could buy a toy like that for probably $25 or less. Today, if you saw one of these in the junkyard, you better grab it for a couple $100 and then start on your restoration. When you get what he got all done with them, I think he probably had with it. He hand built the trailer for us, and the two trucks. It was a few thousand, I think 3,000. So it was, but very unique. It wasn't the money so much, but what's special about it, it was featured in Gear Jammer magazine here last year, and it was the last model that Frank built. So that was unique. Over here, we've got a DM800 that the Navy bought brand new in 1971. It's got about 35,000 miles on it. It's got an 80,000 pound walking beam suspension. It's a very unique truck, big, I think it's a 400 Cummins. 335 Cummins. That was a long time before the 450. 335, and it's got a 5-speed main and a 4-speed auxiliary, and it's got 60. This has got 65,000 pound rears. Excuse me. The one next to me has got 80,000 pound rears. This is a Mammut truck. You guys may be familiar with Mammut. They're big, heavy haul movers. And anyway, we bought that at a Ritchie Brothers sale and did the complete restoration on it. It's a very unique truck. We took that to Macungie last year. And then just a quick one. It's a 1959 Mack B model, B815 that we did in honor of my dad. There's a picture of the honor of my dad there. He got us in this business back in the 50s. And so we did a tribute truck for him. It was really nice. And next to this is a 1952 Mack bus. It was a city of Minneapolis bus. I don't know if you ever rode on public transportation, but Mack built a lot of municipal buses. And it was really unique. And all the want ads up inside are all replica ads from the 1950s. So you can get a pile of mode for 5 cents or get a hotel room for $1.50. That truck is this bus was the Holter family in Minneapolis had it restored. And they called us 2 years ago when we had our open house and asked if they could bring it down. And they said, sure, you can bring it down. How long is it going to be here? And they said, as long as you'll let us. So it hasn't left yet. So we like it. Another real special one is this Boulder Dam truck. This is another one that Ron Carey did. There were 17 Macks on the project of building Boulder Dam in the 30s. This is the only one in the world that's been restored. And it is really special. We get a lot of people looking at that, coming in, and there's all the articles about Boulder Dam. There was a couple hundred internationals there too, but all the news articles about the whole project. And then here's what the truck looked like when it was before the project started. Check that out.
Wow.
It was in pretty tough shape. So another big one that we have is we got a little AB here. This was a moving and storage truck up in Connecticut. Never been restored, but it's got really nice patina on it, so we're not intending to restore this truck. But it's an AB. Most of the ABs had shaft drive instead of chain drive, but the one done cold AB that we have does have chain drive, which is very rare. The next truck here is a 1965 B model B8136. So this is a 6x6 with a military front axle, one of about 80 that were built. Morrison Knutson was one of the 6 contractors that was on the Boulder Dam project. And Matt Fall did this truck. It's a gorgeous. I mean, it's not too often you see a 6x6 dump truck.
Right.
But this thing is just like brand new, and box and paint and everything was very well done. Next to that, we have a beautiful Aaron's Fox that we picked up. It's Aaron's Fox fire truck, early 20s. And all the Aaron's Fox pumps had the pump out in front of the engine, where if you looked, there's a Mack fire truck over on the other side. The pumps are behind the transmission. And but this was kind of like the Cadillac of fire trucks back in the 20s. So there you have a lot of trucks there. There's another shot of our coach here. I can kind of walk down the side of it here and get a little picture because I can get up a little closer. But it weighs 16,000 pounds.
Whoa.
And it probably holds, I guess it would hold 16 or 18 people, but I think with that single frame, we probably wouldn't want to fill it up with everybody, but it's very, very unique. And anyway, I'm not getting sound from you guys, so you got to give me the high sign, and
We're really,
I'm trying to
I
see
think
if my,
I'm speaking for myself, but I'm mesmerized by this.
you guys can
I-
still hear me, right?
Oh,
We can
yeah.
hear you, but I don't know
All
if
right.
you can hear. Can you hear
All
us?
right. Well, you got a short tour. The other one we just picked up here was a
I don't
Mack
think he can hear us.
MC fire truck. This is kind of special because in 1982, I did not know where this truck ended up. I got a call from somebody in Texas that told me there was an MC fire truck in Austin. Well, I thought they meant Austin, Texas. No, it was in Austin, Minnesota, about 30 miles away.
Right.
And it was being used to train firemen and EMTs, and it was going out of service because of age.
Right.
We were asked if we'd bid or buy it, and we did. And I was looking at it and I said, where did this truck come from? Did this come from Owatonna, Minnesota? Because it looks like one we sold in 82. Well, it was a truck we sold. We beat the other guy out of the bid that was selling a Pierce. 42 years later, he ended up getting the bid to replace the truck for this one. And this one came and traded. We got his, it took him 42 years to get that Mack truck off the street. But anyway, it's a nice little truck. It's only got 35,000 miles or so on it. Nice addition to the museum. I just walked down here. I did not show you the truck that it came from out in Oregon was our LT. Another one here beyond the CJ was the 27 International. I mentioned that Russ and Dusty Myers from California Overland. This was Russ Myers' granddad's first truck. And we did the paint and restoration in our body shop in Eau Claire at our restoration shop, and he put the body on the back. The body's a little bit big, but it's still a it's called a 6-speed special. So it had a 3-speed transmission with a 2-speed axle with a shift lever that ran with a rod all the way back to the rear end. So you can look that up at 27 International, 6-speed special. The International, this was what they call an R180. You might remember some of those.
Yeah.
Harold Anderson, who started ATS, Anderson Trucking Service, St. Cloud, Minnesota, started
Yeah.
out hauling granite out of the central Minnesota area, almost all flatbed hauling. This was his first International, and Harold's been gone for many years, but I knew him back in the 70s and 80s, and his son, Raleigh, and family donated this to our museum. The one that's really special, that's unique, that we got in December, was an LT, 1951 LT. We don't even have a sign up for it yet. Dan Thomas at Medford, Oregon, did the complete restoration on this. It's got a Super 220, got a 5-speed main, Mack transmission with a Brownie behind it, and it's a single axle. So my son kind of surprised me for my birthday. They'll never put my name on. They don't put my name on stuff. He put my initials on this one here. And it's, you notice it's got seasonal routes from Palm Springs to Rochester to Palm Springs. We do a little time out there in the winter when we have to. Not this time of year at 120 degrees. But check out this aluminum on this truck and these brackets, cab mounts, steps. Absolutely fabulous job. And what's unique, look at the fuel tank. Now, this fuel tank has got a seam in the center. Well, typically, you see fuel tanks that have a seam at each end. This has got a seam right down the center. And it's a Mack tank at 55 gallon, Mack manufacturing. Very, very nice truck. And what's nice about it when Dan did it, all the interior colors are absolutely correct. The dash was always lighter than the doors. And the seat, of course, they didn't have air seats. They just had a bench seat, and that's what you rode on. But it's really, really a unique truck. And then we've got a couple other trucks down here. We got another oil field rig truck, an AC, tandem axle. And then in the corner, we've got an AC6.
Yeah.
This AC6 has got, in 37, this has got a Cummins engine that's about the same size as the old Mack 673. But this is only 150 horse Cummins. It really runs good. We took this to McCungy. So when you got out of an AC that was running a 70 horse engine, you put 150 horse diesel in. This was pretty special.
Yeah.
Anyway, check the doors.
Bob, so
Another
Bob,
one.
can you
And
hear
I'm
us,
going to show
Bob?
you our little, just a quick tour of our little room where we have our collection of Mac parts books. I'll turn the light switch on. It's going to be a little dark here for a minute, but I want to show you a couple things. See if you can see this one here. Check that out. This was a replica of a 1918 Mack AC fire truck, one of 3 in the world. This one was at Mack World headquarters from early 1980s until they closed down 2100 Mack Boulevard. And we got the call to see if we could preserve that truck, and we put it in our collection. So it's very unique. But in here, we've got parts books from the 20s. We've got sales literature. We've got models. Now, we don't have every model of everything, but we've got a couple other things I've got a couple of these little trays of Bulldog emblems, Bulldog coins, keys, pens, tie clips, whatever you'd want. Some of the unique things, here's the guys that we got this truck from, like the G model Mac, gave us a complete book on the G model. The International, the 27 International, we've got that, all the literature we need on that. And then the 41 Mac ED, the guy that worked on it for 20 years has got everything, all.
Wow.
So here was this 1940. This is a Dave Nattell model right here of this World War II truck hauling this. Look at the size of the barrel on that gun. Now the emblem on here says there were 37 coastal defense guns were transported to various locations from Maine to Virginia. Each 16-inch gun was 68 feet long, weighed 145 tons. That's a real special model right there. And Dave is no longer with us. We've got several of his models here, but we've got parts books. We've got service manuals. I've even got where our CJ Mack was at the World's Fair in 34 World's Fair. The truck was built as a 33 truck. This is one of the replica brochure of the brochures they handed out in Chicago in 1934.
This is crazy.
Jack Mack's rules, which I don't know, Jack Mack that founded the Mack, the Mack brothers. This is quite a piece here about Jack's business rules. Don't lie. It wastes my time and yours. I'm sure to catch you in the end, and that's the wrong end. That's probably a good rule. That probably applies today, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Anyway, guys, tell me if you want to see more or want to come back on another tour, or if you want to come down here on September 23rd,
we're going to have to, because
Saturday.
they only allow us an hour.
Annual
and this
show
gone,
as a
we've used up almost the hour, but
nonprofit. It's a private museum. We have private tours. We have car clubs come through all the time. We have truck driver training people coming through. We have mechanic training students. All the young people love coming in here, because basically the theme of our museum is to promote and preserve the history of trucking in America, and to let everybody know that we're an essential industry, and look at the jobs that we create, and everything moves by truck. So guys, I can't hear you. You're nodding your head now. I noticed you're not sleeping yet. You two men are the only two on the channel that are watching, but you know what? You wave and tell me when it's time for me to go.
I'm gonna send them a text.
I'm glad to be here today. Again,
I'm gonna send them a text.
It's a passion we have in our family for trucks, not just Mack trucks, but just the whole trucking industry, and the contributions that have been made. it's pretty phenomenal. And we make a lot of friends. Most of the people, everybody that I know in the trucking industry are hardworking, and they're always trying to contribute. And we all enjoy being part of history here. And just a couple things like you might remember in the old days, we used to have a parts book that was parts books took you forever to find a part, and then they came up with audio scan projectors back in, or excuse me, not audio scan, the microfiche in 1970s. But we've got one of those here set up, and so kids can come in here and look at that. But I'll let you guys appreciate Rico and Chuck. Thank you very much for having me as your guest today. I'll enjoy talking to you later.
Thank you so much, Bob. Appreciate it.
That was incredible. That was a real trip down memory lane, wasn't it? That was incredible.
I was blown away by the immaculate paint jobs on all of those vehicles. I mean, those things, you talk about, museum is correct. He has them in the museum.
Whoa.
Man, those paint jobs were dripping, man. I mean, they still look wet.
Yeah, that was incredible. Sometimes we need a little break from the humdrum of what we do, and this was perfect. And he's so, these guys are so passionate. Like you and I are passionate about trucking. These guys are even more passionate. They do things like they pay for lobbyists to help change laws in favor of trucking. And they don't even own a trucking company. They own dealerships, but they are so passionate about trucks and trucking and truckers. It's incredible.
I hate I didn't get a chance to pick his brain about where his dealerships were and get a chance to plug all of those things. But
they're all around the Minneapolis, St. Paul, within about a 50 or 75 mile radius, I believe.
Well, we definitely got to reach back out to him and
we are.
I sent him a text and let him know that we appreciate him for coming on. But the little technical glitch or whatever, but that was definitely fascinating. But Chuck,
oh my God, yeah. And I hope our listeners enjoyed this. This was just for me. It was because I'm a Mac nut and I love old trucks. This just really, I can't wait to get down to his. I guess it is kind of. It's funny where he is, even though it's Minnesota, is actually we're almost even with where he is. Because he's in southern Minnesota, so we're on the same latitude.
Okay.
But for our listeners, that it's Nuss and USS Truck Centers, and they're the museum you just saw is in Rochester, Minnesota. Rochester, Minnesota is also home of the Mayo Clinic, and if any of our listeners ever have a health problem they're worried about for themselves or any member of their family, I strongly recommend going there. This is probably the finest medical facility in North America, if not in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Chuck, we'll get ready. I guess we'll get ready to wrap it up for this week and get ready to get prepared for next week. Let everyone know the usual routine, how they can get a hold of you.
Yes, if anybody needs some help with anything, please reach out to me. Send me an email with your phone number to chucksnow280@outlook.com, and I will end up probably calling you and finding out how I can help you, whether you want to get set up with my with a company that I founded and worked at for almost 45 years, Traffics, or whether you're having a challenge in your business. I'm thinking about something for next week, and I may have an answer for some of our listeners that are struggling right now. So we may have something, and Rico and I are going to talk about it during the week, and we'll see if we can get this next guest on, who it'd be perfect timing for these times when things are a little bit more difficult to navigate. So with that, Rico, I'm going to let you back her in a hole for another week here. I'll direct you in so you don't hit that Swift truck. It's parked a little crooked there.
Well, I tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you guys for taking time out to join us, whether you listen to us and looked at us live or whether you came back and caught us on the rebroadcast later on down the line. We definitely are always eternally grateful for you doing so. We appreciate it. Want to thank Mr. Robert Nuss again for taking the time out to come and join us as well. We appreciate all that he showed us. That was very fascinating. Very fascinating. We want to try to maybe schedule to try to get him back on again to maybe see some of the stuff that we probably didn't see. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we want you guys to stay safe out there, stay healthy, keep it in between the mustard and the mayonnaise, and God willing, we'll talk at you same time, same place next week. God bless you and good night.
Catch you on the flip flop. God bless.